The man in seat 12, the airport buzzed with life. People dragged suitcases, checked watches, and made calls with tired voices. At gate 47, a long line had already formed for flight 226 to Tokyo. Business class was boarding. Economy would follow. Near the middle of the line, wearing an old backpack and a faded black hoodie, stood a quiet man with messy hair and calm eyes. No one noticed him at first, until someone behind him whispered, "Wait, is that Keanu Reeves?" People turned. Eyes widened. Phones came out. Someone tried to take a photo, but he gently shook his head. "No pictures, please," he said softly. He looked tired. Not movie star tired. Soul tired. Still, he stood there like everyone else, holding his boarding pass and waiting for his turn. Keanu had a reason for traveling alone. No assistants, no cameras, no special entrance. This trip was personal. Deep inside his hoodie pocket was a gold envelope. The edges were smooth. The paper was thick, and inside it was something that meant more to him than any award he had ever won. A letter and a promise. He had kept it for years. Now it was time to fulfill it. As he walked onto the plane, a flight attendant looked at his pass, paused, and smiled. "Sir, I believe you're in 12B. Keanu nodded. "It's a middle seat. I'm afraid," she said, glancing at his simple clothes. "But welcome aboard." He didn't mind. He didn't want attention. But not everyone shared that view. As he made his way down the aisle, a voice called out from the cockpit, "Gold ticket, huh? Thought those were only for VIP celebrities." Keanu turned. The pilot stood there, smirking, tall, clean-cut, his uniform perfect. His name badge read Captain Douglas. He looked at Keanu and raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're on the right flight?" he asked, loud enough for others to hear. Keanu gave a polite smile. "Pretty sure." The pilot stepped forward. "You see, we've had fake gold tickets before, people trying to upgrade for free. It's just a little odd to see one in economy." Keanu didn't say anything. He didn't need to. But the silence felt loud. A few passengers chuckled nervously. Some looked confused. Others watched. Unsure. Keanu slowly reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out the envelope. He handed it over. Captain Douglas opened it. His eyes scanned the letter inside. His smirk faded. His expression changed. But he quickly masked it. "You're all set," he said flatly. Returning the envelope, "Enjoy the flight." Keanu took back the envelope and walked down the aisle to 1B. He didn't look angry, just distant. Passengers settled in around him. A young woman with headphones took the window seat. A man in a suit sat by the aisle, typing on a laptop. Keanu placed the gold envelope gently in his lap, then closed his eyes. The pilot, meanwhile, went back to the cockpit with a strange look on his face. He couldn't stop thinking about what he had read, because the gold ticket wasn't a first-class pass. It wasn't even a real ticket. It was a letter from a woman named Hannah. Dated 13 years ago, and signed with the words, "If this ever reaches you, please keep your promise, for the boy who still remembers the violin." Captain Douglas stared at the name on the letter again. Hannah Matsuoka. He hadn't heard that name in years. He gripped the controls tighter. The flight began. Seat belts clicked, engines roared. The plane rose slowly into the sky. Somewhere above the clouds, Keanu sat in silence, his hands still resting on the envelope. He remembered the promise: a rainy night, a broken violin, a little boy with tears in his eyes, and a woman who gave him a gift that saved his life. She didn't want anything in return. But Keanu had made a promise anyway. "If I ever make it," he had said, "I'll find you. I'll return the kindness." Now he was here, flying halfway across the world for something no one else understood. Not a film. Not a festival, but a funeral. A private goodbye to someone who once gave him light in his darkest hour. And the gold envelope, it wasn't for him. It was for her son. But what Keanu didn't know yet was this: the boy had grown up, and he was already on this plane. And what happened next would leave the world speechless. The boy with the broken violin plane flew steady above the clouds. Inside, everything felt calm. Passengers scrolled through movies. Some dozed off. Others read quietly. But seat 12 billion was different. Quiet, yes, but not calm. Keanu Reeves sat still, eyes open, not watching the screen in front of him. His fingers gently touched the edges of the gold envelope. The letter inside held more than ink. It held memories, some beautiful, some painful. He remembered Hannah. She wasn't famous, not rich, just a woman who once worked in a small music shop in Tokyo. He had met her by accident. He was young, unknown, lost in a country where he didn't speak the language, trying to find a role in a film no one believed he could do. He had no money, no hope. Then one night, while walking in the rain, he heard music. Soft, broken. He followed the sound to a little alley. There, under a broken awning, a boy sat with a violin in his lap. It was cracked. He tried to play, but the strings were wrong. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but he kept playing. A woman stood nearby, gently fixing a sign outside the music shop. She turned, saw Keanu watching, and smiled. "He plays every night," she said softly. "His father left. He plays to feel close to him." Keanu nodded. They didn't say much else that night. But the next day, he returned. And the day after. Eventually, Hannah let him sit inside the store. She offered him tea, let him help clean. Sometimes. They didn't even talk, just shared silence and soft music. On his last day in Tokyo, Hannah handed him a folded paper. "If you ever become someone people know," she said with a smile, "come back. Find my son. Give him a reason to believe in the world again." Keanu kept that paper. Through every movie. Every award. Every loss. He never forgot. Now, years later, he was finally going back. But he didn't know that the boy from the alley had grown into a man. And that man was only a few rows ahead, in seat 6A. His name was Ren. He wore a gray jacket, neat slacks, and black headphones. He worked as a violinist now, playing in concert halls across Asia. He had just performed in Los Angeles and was returning home to Tokyo. His heart was heavy. His mother had passed away 5 days ago. He had missed her final breath by only hours. He blamed himself. He hadn't seen her in months. Work had pulled him in all directions. He had told himself there would be time. But now there wasn't. As he looked out the window, he didn't notice Keanu just a few rows behind. Nor did he know about the gold envelope. But fate was moving quietly. And soon, everything would collide. Back in the cockpit, Captain Douglas stared at the controls, but his mind was elsewhere. The letter, the name. Hannah Matsuoka. He had known her to. Not well. But enough. She once taught a small music course where his younger brother studied. She had spoken kindly to him during a difficult time, said music could heal wounds no one saw. He didn't believe her then. But now, he wondered. Was it really her? Did Keanu Reeves come all this way for her? And if so, why? He tapped the intercom, then stopped. What would he even say? "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Hollywood star on board, fulfilling a promise to a woman who changed his life." No, this wasn't a film. This was real. He leaned back and sighed. To Rose's back. Keanu finally stood and walked slowly toward the restroom. As he passed the rows, his eyes landed on a familiar shape, a violin case, neatly tucked under seat 6A. He slowed down, looked at the young man beside it. Dark hair, tired eyes, something in his face stirred a memory. Keanu stared for a second longer. Then moved on. In the restroom, he stood before the mirror and opened the envelope again. He read Hannah's words. "His name is Ren. He plays better than his father ever did, but he still plays with pain. Please give him peace. If you can." Keanu whispered the name to himself. Ren. He stepped out, walked slowly back. This time, he paused near seat 6A. The young man was now reading a small notebook. Keanu spoke gently. "Excuse me, is your name Ren?" The young man looked up, confused. Double quotes. "Yes," he said. Keanu smiled kindly. I have something for you." Ren frowned. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" Keanu sat down beside him for a moment, lowering his voice. "A long time ago, I met your mother, Hannah. She helped me when no one else would. I made her a promise to find you and give you this." He handed over the envelope. Ren looked at it like it was something fragile. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was her letter. Her handwriting, her words, His lips parted. His breath caught. This is real, he whispered. Keanu nodded. I never forgot her. And I never forgot you. Ren covered his mouth. His eyes filled with tears. The plane around them felt silent. The world outside that moment didn't exist. She always said someone would come, Ren whispered. She told me not to lose faith, that one day someone would return. Keanu said nothing, because sometimes silence is the loudest kindness. Passengers nearby watched quietly, unsure what they were witnessing. A man giving a letter to a stranger, but it was more than that. It was a moment 13 years in the making. A promise kept. A wound touch. A life-honored. But it wasn't over. Because what Keanu didn't know was this. Ren had written a song, a special one, that he planned to play in Tokyo in memory of his mother. He had never shared it with anyone. But now, he wanted to. And when he did, the world would never forget. The song No One Had Heard. The plane continued its long flight over the ocean. Night had fallen outside, and the cabin lights dimmed. Most passengers were asleep or lost in quiet distractions. But in row 6A, Ren sat with the gold envelope still open in his lap. His fingers touched the words gently, as if they were too sacred to hold. Keanu Reeves sat next to him silently, giving him space. After a while, Ren broke the silence. His voice was soft. She never told me she wrote to you. I didn't even know she kept in touch with anyone from those years. Keanu nodded. It wasn't often. Just once. But it meant everything. Double quotes. Ren looked down. I always thought she was just being kind, always talking about faith and promises. I didn't know she meant it. Keanu smiled faintly. She meant every word. Ren closed the letter and sat quietly for a moment. Then he reached under his seat and pulled out the black violin case. Do you mind if I show you something? He asked. Of course not. Keanu said gently. Ren opened the case slowly. Inside was a violin so polished, it seemed to glow. The wood was dark and smooth, but the edges showed wear. It was clear this instrument had been played, traveled, and cried through. This was her violin. Ren said, she gave it to me when I was 9. Keanu leaned forward slightly. The same one from the alley. Ren nodded. She fixed it, string by string. He paused, then continued. Last year, after one of my concerts, she called. Said she felt proud, but sad. She told me she had a feeling her time was near. Keanu listened closely. I wrote a piece for her, Ren whispered. I called it Hannah's Promise. I never played it for anyone. I was saving it for her. His voice cracked. But she's gone now. Keanu placed a hand gently on his shoulder. She may be gone, but her song isn't. Ren looked down at the violin. I want to play it. Now, before I change my mind. Keanu glanced around the cabin. Some passengers were watching, curious, quiet. You should, Keanu said. If your heart tells you it's time, it's time. Ren closed his eyes. And began to play. At first, the sound was soft, barely rising above the hum of the engines. But as the bow moved across the strings, the music grew warmer, deeper, richer. Passengers slowly lifted their heads. Phones were lowered. Screens were turned off. One by one. They began to listen. The melody was unlike anything they had heard before. It started with sorrow, long, aching notes that seemed to reach into the past. Then it shifted, became brighter, like hope climbing through darkness. It was a song of goodbye, and also a song of return. A woman in the back wiped her eyes. A young boy leaned against the window, quietly humming along. Even the flight attendants stood still in the aisle, hands clasped. In the cockpit, Captain Douglas heard the music through the intercom. He closed his eyes. He remembered Hannah's voice, her patience, her kindness, and something inside him shifted. When Ren finished, the last note hung in the air like a prayer. No one clapped, not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't dare break the moment. Keanu looked at Ren, his eyes shining. She heard that. He said quietly. Ren nodded. I felt it. The silence was broken by a single voice, soft, thoughtful. It was the woman sitting across the aisle. What was that called? She asked. Ren looked at her, his voice calm and full of peace. Hannah's Promise. She nodded and whispered. She must have been someone very special. Ren smiled. She was. A few seats back, someone recorded the last few minutes of the performance. No one thought much of it. But that video, that raw, honest moment between a man and his mother's memory, would soon be shared across the world. And when it reached people, something rare happened. Not just likes, not just shares. But change. Because kindness, when remembered, becomes something powerful. But the journey wasn't over yet. After the flight landed in Tokyo, Keanu and Ren would face something unexpected. A gathering. A secret, and a gift waiting in Hannah's old shop that would rewrite everything. The violin shop that never said the wheels of flight to the 6 touched down gently on Tokyo's runway. Morning light streamed through the windows. Passengers sat upright, stretching, gathering their things. But in row 6A, Ren sat still, his violin resting across his lap. Keanu Reeves sat beside him, his head slightly bowed, still holding the gold envelope with the worn letter inside. Neither of them spoke much as the plane rolled toward the gate. Sometimes silence says enough. As they stepped off the plane, a few passengers nodded at Ren. One woman touched her heart. A teenage boy whispered, "Thank you." As they passed, word had quietly spread. People had felt something, not through fame, not through flash, but through truth. In the terminal, Keanu placed his sunglasses on, more out of habit than vanity. Ren looked around and said quietly, "I didn't expect to come back like this." "How long has it been?" Keanu asked. 5 years, Ren replied. "I kept promising her I'd visit. I always got busy." Keanu didn't judge. He just walked beside him. They left the airport with a car waiting, not a fancy one, just a small black van sent by one of Ren's music colleagues on the drive. Ren stared out the window. As the city passed, tall buildings gave way to quieter streets. Concrete turned into wood and paper. The colors of the neighborhood grew warmer, older. Then the car stopped. They had arrived at the shop, Hannah's music shop. Ren stood still for a long time before walking in. The wooden sign above the door still read Hannah Soundworks in faded letters. The front window was a little dusty, but inside, the shelves stood exactly as he remembered. Rows of violins, sheet music, photos on the wall. The smell of cedar and rosin filled the air. An old man looked up from behind the counter. His eyes widened when he saw Ren. Ren, he said, stepping forward. "Is that really you?" Ren smiled slightly. "Hello, Mr. Ishida." The man stepped out and hugged him tightly. "Your mother always said you'd come back one day." Ren's voice was soft. "I should have come sooner." Mr. Ishida pulled back. "She left something for you. She told me to give it to you only if you returned with peace in your heart." Ren blinked. "How would you know if I had peace?" Mr. Ishida smiled. "Because you walked in, not rushed, not ashamed. That tells me enough." He walked to the back and returned with a small wooden box. He handed it to Ren with both hands. "She made this with her own hands. Took her almost a year." Ren opened it slowly. Inside was a violin. But not just any violin. The wood was carved with incredible detail. Delicate vines ran along the edges. And in the center, under the strings, was a name burned into the grain. Ren's Litron covered his mouth. She said, "Mr. Ishida continued, you needed to remember that you were the light in her life, and that even if she couldn't stay, the light would." Ren's hands shook as he lifted the violin. Keanu watched quietly from the doorway, his heart heavy with warmth. Ishida turned to him. "And you must be the man she told stories about." Keanu nodded once. "I'm just someone who promised not to forget her." "You didn't, Mr. Ishida said kindly. "That means something." As they sat in the shop, Ren shared memories of his childhood. The late nights, the broken strings, the sound of his mother humming while she cooked. Every memory felt like a small piece of her was still alive. Then the shop's door opened. A woman walked in, middle-aged, carrying a small black folder. "I hope I'm not too late," she said. "I saw the video." "Video?" Ren asked. "Someone from the plane," she explained. "They posted it online. Your song. The whole world is talking about it." Ren's eyes widened. "People are calling it the song of the year," she said, handing him the folder. "I represent the Tokyo Youth Arts Council. We want to feature it at our International Peace Concert. Ren opened the folder slowly. Inside was an invitation. Perform live. With one guest of his choice. Keanu looked surprised. Me no, Ren said with a smile. You're more than a guest, you're the reason this song exists. Keanu chuckled softly. I can't play. You already did, Ren said. You played a promise. That evening, they sat together inside the shop as the sun fell low. The wooden floor creaked with each movement. Outside, the city moved on. But inside, time slowed. Ren picked up Ren's light and played again. No cameras, no crowd, just strings and silence. Keanu closed his eyes. Somewhere in the music, he heard Hannah laughing softly, saying thank you. But the story wasn't done. The concert was coming. And what happened on that stage would silence even the coldest hearts. The Promise Goes Public. Tokyo's Peace Hall was one of the most beautiful venues in the city. Tall glass windows curved toward the sky, letting sunlight pour onto white marble floors. The air felt sacred, not because of the building, but because of the silence it demanded. Only music filled this place. No arguments, no noise. Just stories told in notes. The night of the concert had arrived. The audience was full. Over 3,000 people, musicians, families, diplomats, and students from around the world. The event was streamed live to millions. It was meant to promote peace through art, a stage for young voices to heal the world. But no one expected what would happen that night. Ren stood backstage, holding Ren's light, the violin his mother left him. His heart pounded. His fingers were cold. The same hands that had played in sold-out theaters now trembled. Next to him, standing quietly in a black suit, was Keanu Reeves. Ren looked at him and smiled nervously. You sure you want to walk out with me? Keanu nodded. She walked with me when no one else did. This is my way of walking with you. Ren took a deep breath. The announcer's voice echoed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ren Matsuoka, and a guest who needs no introduction. Applause began, polite at first, then louder as Keanu stepped onto the stage behind Ren. People stood, phones came out. But something shifted when they saw the violin and the look in Ren's eyes. He walked slowly to the center. Sat on the small wooden stool. And spoke. My name is Ren, he said softly. His voice carried through the microphone. This piece is called Hannah's Promise. It's for my mother, and for the man who kept his word when the world forgot. The hall went still, and he began to play. No lights danced. No special effects. Just a boy. A violin. And a promise. The first notes were soft, like whispers of memories. The melody climbed, fell, rose again. It spoke of childhood, of late nights in a small shop, of a woman who believed in music more than anything. Then it changed, the tone deeper, almost trembling. It was sorrow, distance, lost. Keanu stood, still at the side of the stage, watching, remembering. Then, as the song reached its middle, something new entered the music. Hope. Not loud, not sudden. Just a steady heartbeat. A reminder that even after pain, love stays. People in the crowd wiped tears. Not just one or two. Many. A mother held her daughter's hand tighter. An old man in the front row lowered his head and sobbed. Backstage, the staff stopped moving. Even the announcer wiped his eyes. Ren's bow moved with grace. Each note felt like a prayer, not for applause, not for praise, just to say, she mattered. And she still does. When the final note ended, Ren lowered the violin. Slowly, his shoulders shook as he breathed out. And then, silence, a deep, still, holy silence. Then came the sound, not clapping. Not cheers. But the sound of people standing. Thousands rising in silence, some with hands over their hearts, some with hands lifted toward the sky. Keanu walked to him slowly and placed a hand on his shoulder. Ren looked up, his eyes full. You kept your promise, he whispered. Keanu nodded. So did you. After the concert, the clip went viral. The internet flooded with messages. I've never cried like this before. That man walked on stage, not as a celebrity, but as a human. This is what the world needs right now. Real kindness, real music, real stories. Ren and Keanu didn't speak to reporters. They didn't make it a show. But something changed. The next day, Flowers were placed outside Hannah's old music shop. Strangers left letters, candles, thank you notes. A young girl came with her broken ukulele and left it at the door with a message. Please fix me, like you fixed Ren. Keanu read it with tears in his eyes. He turned to Ren and said, "You're not just a musician anymore. You're a lighthouse." Ren smiled. "I learned from one." But before they could return home, one more twist waited. Captain Douglas, the pilot who once mocked Keanu's gold envelope, had seen the video. And what he did next, no one saw coming. Asterisk the man who stood last while weeks later. Keanu Reeves and Ren Matsuoka prepared to return to Los Angeles. The peace concert had finished. The world had watched, but their hearts felt quiet again, like the echo after music fades. At the airport, they waited together at gate 12, sitting away from the crowd. Ren had his violin in a soft case. Keanu wore his usual hoodie and sunglasses. Almost invisible to most. Ren looked down at the floor. "Part of me doesn't want to leave," he said softly. "I feel like if I stay, she's still here." Keanu nodded. "She'll be wherever you play." A quiet announcement came over the speakers. "Boarding now, Flight 777 to Los Angeles." They stood and joined the line, but as they reached the gate, a familiar voice spoke behind them. "Mr. Reeves, Mr. Matsuoka, if you have a moment." They turned. It was Captain Douglas, the same pilot from Flight 6. The one who had mocked Keanu. He looked different now, not in uniform, wearing a simple blue sweater, his posture softer, his eyes more human. Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't expect to see myself here either," Douglas said, looking embarrassed. "I saw the video, your concert. I didn't know." He paused, then took a breath. "I treated you poorly on that flight, and I'm sorry. I thought that envelope was fake. I thought you were just another star expecting special treatment." Keanu didn't interrupt. He let him speak. Douglas looked at Ren. "And I didn't know you were the boy from her shop. Hannah helped my brother years ago. Gave him music lessons when we couldn't afford them. I never told anyone that." Ren blinked. "Your brother. Was he Takashi?" Douglas nodded, surprised. "You remember him? He gave me my first set of strings," Ren said with a smile. "He said they were from a grumpy older brother who didn't believe in music." Douglas laughed softly, rubbing his face. "Yep, that sounds like me." He grew quiet. "I've seen so many passengers over the years. Most are forgettable. But you do. You reminded me why flying matters, not just the sky. The people inside the plane." He reached into his pocket and handed something to Keanu. A new envelope. "This one wasn't gold. Just white." Keanu opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, handwritten, from Captain Douglas. "Dear Keanu and Ren, thank you for reminding me what dignity looks like. For showing me that kindness doesn't need applause, and that promises, when kept, still matter in this world. With respect, Douglas." Keanu folded the letter carefully and placed it in his jacket. Then he extended his hand. Douglas shook it, firmly. "No cameras. No reporters. Just a man making something right." As Keanu and Ren boarded, the flight attendant gave them a small nod. "Seats 3A and 3B, she said, courtesy of Captain Douglas." They didn't argue. They sat by the window as the plane rose into the clouds. Hours passed in quiet peace. Ren slept. Keanu stared out the window. Somewhere over the ocean. Ren woke up and pulled out his violin. Keanu raised a brow. "Really? Here?" Ren smirked, quietly. He played a few soft notes, just enough to hear. And Keanu closed his eyes. He thought of Hannah, of the rain. Of the little shop. He thought of the boy in the alley who never stopped playing, even when no one listened. And now the world listened. But more than that, the world felt. As the plane touched down in Los Angeles, passengers gathered their bags, but no one rushed. Something about the flight felt still. At the exit, the crew stood in a line, and at the very end of the row was Captain Douglas. He didn't wear his badge. He didn't salute. He just stood with his hands behind his back. As Keanu and Ren passed, he said only one thing: "You made me proud to fly." Keanu smiled. "You made it possible." Outside the airport, the world moved fast. But in their hearts, One thing moved slow, the truth that promises matter, the truth that music heals, and the truth that sometimes the one who gets mocked at the gate ends up opening the door for everyone else.